Good evening and welcome to Artsplaining, featuring art industry's leaders and exhibiting artists at the Coral Springs Museum of Art. I'm your host, Petra Galland, Assistant Director, and tonight we'll be speaking with Barbara and Sandra Stella, a sister act utilizing science and fine art skills to conserve precious art and the history behind it. However, before we begin tonight's community event, the museum would like to thank the following: the Florida Department of State Division of Cultural Affairs, a National Endowment for the Humanities, Florida Humanities Council, the Broward County Cultural Division, and the Broward County Board of County Commissioners, the City of Coral Springs, and the museum's Board of Directors, Scott Brook, Joy Carter, Joshua Simmons, Sean Stera, and Larry Vignola, and of course, our museum's members. Their support to the Coral Springs Museum of Art provides the community engaging art experiences such as this evening's Artsplaining. We hope you enjoy this evening's special opportunity to engage and ask questions with tonight's guest during our Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Join me in welcoming tonight's very special guests and now friends, Barbara and Sandra Stella. Ladies, hello.
Hello.
How are you? Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
It's so good to see you guys. I'm so glad we're finally here and we're chit-chatting about all of the wonderful things about art conservation. This is exciting. I'm so glad. We've been talking quite a while too for tonight, but it's really, you guys have such great energy and I'm so excited about tonight. So before we begin, while we were talking, I think Sandra, I was talking to you initially and we were chit-chatting and I said, are you Italian? And you said, yes, of course, I'm Italian. And I said, oh my gosh, I did a study abroad in Italy. And we started talking and connecting. And so I'd love for you guys to really share a little bit about your beautiful Italian heritage and where you're from.
Well, we come from a town, there everybody pronouncing the Italian way. What's how we roll our R's. The name is Porto Garibaldi.
I love it.
Yes, we really roll our tongues. And Porto Garibaldi is actually a beautiful town, 70 miles south of Venice. So we're really lucky on the placement. And it's very special because it's an Etruscan town. And now many of you know that the Etruscan civilization is really one of the first ones in Italy, dating back to the 8th and 3rd century before Christ. So when we were born there, you actually know that you're part of something much bigger. You're part of history. And, you know, it's just phenomenal. On top of it, Porto Garibaldi actually has the largest national reserve of wetlands. And the waters flow through ancient coastal dunes until it actually meets the dunes. So it's a very special natural preserve. And guess what? We also have flamingos. So we found them here, but we've got them there too. Surprise, right?
That is incredible. I know. I mean, when we saw that photo, I was like, what? Flamingos in Italy? That's a new one. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a special place. It's very dreamy.
Yeah, and growing up, I know growing up in Italy, you were obviously impacted by the art that surrounded you all the time. Barbara, I know you gave us a cute photo of yourself, I think holding a marker. It's so cute. So I know that obviously for both of you, both Sandra and you too, Barbara, that you guys were impacted by art living and growing up in Italy so much that you're now in the industry. So tell me a little bit about how that impacted you.
Absolutely. Living in Italy, we had the privilege to be surrounded by beauty, by art. It's everywhere. You can walk in a street and you can see a little sculpture, you can see a fresco painted. So it's really a privilege. If you love art, it's almost inevitable to do not love art.
Although, can I interrupt 1 second? Because she was born with the love of the arts. Now, let me tell you what my sister was like, you know, growing up. And that was something.
Do tell.
Oh,
this is the forum for that.
We would be sitting at the table, everybody really enjoying their ice cream. And she would just take all the pieces of bread that she could find on the table mixing it inside of the ice cream and creating an amazing sculpture.
No. That's fantastic.
But what's more, she was so talented drawing. It was just, I don't know if some of you can actually relate to what I'm about to say, but when you have that sister that knows how to do things perfectly, that was me growing up looking at my sister. And she could just draw in a way that was, to me, phenomenal. And so one day I was just doing a lot of lines, colored lines, and my mom looked at me and she was like, why are you not drawing anything? You never draw anything. You just do colored lines. Why? And I looked at her.
She was doing an abstract painting and she didn't realize that at the time.
But I did tell her, I cannot even try to draw because I'll never be as good as my sister. She was phenomenal.
And I'll tell you what, I'll tell our viewers this, that since we started these conversations with the two of you, I call you guys the Sister Act in art conservation here in Florida. I mean, Sandra, you are the biggest advocate of your sister. I mean, it's amazing to watch you talk about Barbara. And Barbara, the same thing goes for Sandra too, just an amazing connection between the two of you when you guys talk about each other. Real love there. So that's fantastic. So now let me say this, from your youth, you went to Florence, and from Florence you went to the Institute of Art and Restoration, Palazzo Spinelli, right? In Florence. We love Florence.
Yes,
beautiful place. So tell me a little bit about the work that you did there and the schooling and studying that you had to do.
Absolutely. As Sandy just mentioned, I always loved art. So I studied art since when I was a little girl, and I went to Ravenna and I studied art, and there I studied Academia of Fine Arts. And during the Academia of Fine Arts, I did a complementary course in conservation. And that was the moment I felt my calling.
Nice. I love that.
fell in love about conservation. I really, truly, sincerely felt a connection with, I think that was my purpose. So I needed to go there studying art to be a conservator. So I decided to move in Florida, in Florence, and to study conservation at Palazzo Spinelli, which is a very renowned school in Italy in conservation, to be a conservator, and studied conservation to rescue artworks. So this is my calling.
It's phenomenal. Go ahead.
And such a privilege. And that was actually the view from the balcony of my apartment. So it was such a privilege to also experience this city.
Wow. So yeah, it's a beautiful city. Beautiful city. If our viewers haven't been there, you got to go. It's just an incredible city.
It's an incredible city. Yes.
And now, after you studied, where did you go from there?
So after studying, I moved in Ferrara, where I opened my studio. I had my studio for almost 20 years in Ferrara, another beautiful city I recommended to visit. It is a medieval town, and you can see the castle. I used to walk into the castle to go to my studio. And it's also, there is the Renaissance look also as well. So you can see the beauty all around. And this city has an annual event, which I do recommend. It's in May. It's the Palio. And all the city dress like medieval Renaissance dresses. So it's really beautiful to see. You feel really like to be back in the ancient time.
I'll be sure to go in May.
The combination of the ancient, the art really brought me to where I am now,
and I do want to add.
Exactly. Yeah. You went through some challenges. You went through some challenges being a woman in a male-dominated art field. And tell us a little bit about that, Sandra. I know that we have some newspaper clippings that you supplied us. I love these clippings.
Yeah, I wanted everybody to see that because you can only believe it when you see it. I know, that's the answer.
What you went through.
So we're talking about, Italy 30 years ago. So the mentality was a bit different than it is right now. But when Barbara first graduated, she was young and she was pretty, and she was in a way slightly overlooked. because, you know, she was just a girl. And so Barbara is very determined, and she's a strong woman. So when she wants something to happen, she'll fight for it. So she decided then, you know what, I'm going to cut my hair. And I kind of circle images where you can see Barbara with her hair shorter, and she started dressing more like manly way, you know, with pants and more classical, like an older lady. So she would be taken into account. And they did, but they still didn't like her because she was still a young girl.
Oh my gosh, terrible.
I was very young. I was very young.
Yeah, but, you know, age doesn't qualify the skill. So anyway, so they decided, okay, well, you want to play hard? Well, we're going to show you how we're going to play hard. So they started sending her all kind of challenges, all the paintings that they didn't want to do. And we're talking about, you know, other people in this sector. They said, oh, send it to Stella. Stella will do it. You know, just send it there. And she was like, oh, yeah, I love challenges.
I love that.
She started doing some amazing work and really stunning. And so in the end, she was constantly in the news. And they created a monster because she became famous pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you really were set against these obstacles, and you went right up that hill as fast as you could. I think to really internalize all the information that you knew from the Palazzo Spinelli and put it into place, because you stepped up to the challenge, girl. Good for you, and thank you for all women. We appreciate that. We really do. Now, I know that from here, you left Italy. Now, and you both, it's amazing to me that both of you, again, I'll reiterate the fact that your connection and support and love for one another is it's so key in this whole thing too. Yes. You both left Italy and came to Florida. Tell me a little bit about how that happened.
Yes, so I moved 12 years ago. So that was 2008. And at the time, I was challenged because everybody were saying I am a little naive and a little bit crazy living a successful business and without any certainty. But in truth, I can tell you, Petra, when you become a mother, is just your priority changed. Your focus is to give your son, which at the time was Leonardo, my oldest. Now I have Leonardo and Lorenzo. And I wanted a better future for them. And Italy, unfortunately, was experiencing some difficulty, and still now there are some challenges for Italy. Italy is a beautiful country. Everybody loves Italy. Don't you think so? It's just
yes. If you haven't gone, it's incredible. It's so many different cultures within Italy itself. It's beautiful.
Exactly. But unfortunately, indeed, there is no future for new generations. So I wanted something better for my family, for my children. And I decided to start everything from zero. And I definitely started everything from zero. I barely spoke English when I moved here. So it was really, really, I still have my Italian accent, but my English
is beautiful. I love it. It's beautiful. Don't ever leave it. Don't ever let your Italian accent leave you.
I tried. But you know, sometimes life challenges you, and you need to take the courage to just leave your comfort zone and be willing to start everything, to make a change. And so now I'm here, and I trusted my American dream, and I'm living my American dream with my family and my sister too. So I couldn't ask more.
Now that's a dolce vita, right?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. I'll tell you that. I mean, I think that is sort of like that American dream that people want to start from scratch, you know, and really building up what it is that you believe in and your dream and your goals.
Yes.
I do know that the name of your, and we haven't mentioned it, but the name of your art conservation is Stella, your last name's Art Conservation up in Palm Beach County, Florida. I'd love to, I know you guys gave us this great video. I'd love to play that now, and then we can discuss a little bit more about what it is and what you do here in Florida. How does that sound? Fantastic.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Art conservation embraces an interdisciplinary and science-based approach to art. Conservators are highly educated in science, chemistry, history, ethics, and art, to name but a few. Indeed, our conservators are the guardians of our cultural heritage. They are passionate about the arts and dedicated to preserve our treasures for future generations. At Stella Art Conservation, we are specialized in museum-quality art conservation and restoration of paintings, sculptures, artifacts, and other artworks, from the ancient to the contemporary. Our expert art conservators have superior knowledge in traditional as well as innovative fine art conservation techniques and are capable of restoring highly damaged artworks while preserving the artist's original intention. Our Chief Art Conservator, Barbara Stella, is a professional associate of the American Institute for Conservation, and she stringently follows its rules and regulations. In the span of a 30-year career, she has performed treatments on artworks by prestigious artists such as Rembrandt, Monet, Salvador Dali, Kenneth Noland, John Miro, Magritte, and more. Join us in this journey behind the scenes of Stella Art Conservation, narrated by our Chief Conservator, Barbara Stella.
A conservation treatment always begins with the examination of the artwork. For that purpose, we use different tools and methods to reveal the actual condition of the painting. The specialized equipment we use for the examination are UV light, raking light, microscope, and eventually infrared X-ray. It's essential for a conservator to record all the information obtained throughout direct observation and in-depth researches regarding the artist, the history, and artistic techniques. When all this information is recorded, we can establish a conservation treatment protocol. UV light is an essential tool in art conservation. It enables our conservators to examine paintings and help us to detect previous restoration, as well as understand the materials used by the artist and much more. In this case, for instance, you can identify the retouching we did during the restoration of this beautiful portrait of Lily Lantry. As you can see, the retouching are not visible in natural light. However, they must be identifiable under UV light to distinguish between the original and the restoration. Cleaning a painting is a very important and yet sensitive phase in conservation. Accumulated layers of dirt, grime, soot, smoke, discolored varnish, old retouching, over time can alter the appearance of the painting. As a consequence, the image may look darkened, yellowed, or dull, or simply it doesn't appear as clear or sharp as you remember. By removing this layer, a conservator can bring a painting back to its original brightness. Cleaning an artwork requires skills and knowledge in chemistry, material science, and much more. It also requires years of training and practical experience. Indeed, improper cleaning can cause irreversible damages. To clean a painting, we use several methodologies and materials, from the traditional solvents, solvent gels, to the new methodologies and new materials that are constantly improved. So today, we can also use microemulsion, aqueous solution, and adjusted water, where we change the pH of the water, making it more acidic or basic, based on what we need to solubilize on the paint layer. We also have the latest innovation in conservation, which is nanotechnology, another important technology that can be used particularly for sensitive paintings that do not support any water or solvent solutions. We perform preliminary tests to determine the most appropriate cleaning solution and methodologies. We also evaluate the solubility of the material that needs to be removed from the surface. We do especially take into consideration the stability of the original materials and much more prior to proceeding with the cleaning. We do deeply examine the artwork and carefully select the proper cleaning solution. In this case of this painting depicting the Rialto Bridge in Venice, which is an oil on canvas, it presents a layer of nicotine on the surface. As you can see in this area where I removed the layer of nicotine, I was able to reveal the original brightness of the color. The difference is absolutely dramatic. For the cleaning in this phase, I used adjusted water, changing the pH of the water with a lower pH to remove the layer of nicotine. In this other painting depicting a portrait of a lady, we have a different issue, which is a very thick discolored varnish. Traditional oil paintings usually have a final coat of varnish over the paint layer as a protective layer from dust and atmospheric pollution. However, the varnish are natural resins that with time, light and humidity have the tendency to discolor and change the overall brightness and tone. The final phase is what we call the cosmetic treatment, which includes the retouching of the losses. Here we recreate the color matching the surrounding original colors to restore the artist's image, but without covering any of the original paint. The retouching or painting must be confined to specific area of loss, and the materials used must be reversible.
In this modern painting, Barbara cleaned both the paint layer and the raw canvas. As you can see from this picture, the painting had dirt, nicotine and toxin. And here is the picture taken after the restoration. Please note that the canvas was returned to its original color and no blanching was done to it. The technique used made sure that the painting will be preserved for many generations to come. This ancient French painting had many issues: yellowing of the varnish, tears, holes, and many more. Please pay close attention to the area on top of the lady's head. And here is the painting after the restoration. Notice anything different? The hat was overpainted during a previous restoration, and it was a true pleasure for us to bring the painting back to its original beauty, revealing the hat that the artist had so skillfully done. That's the purpose of an art conservator.
I love that video. That is so much fun. I mean, it really sort of educates the viewers and the public in general what it is between the difference between art conservation and art restoration. And I want you to reiterate that again, though. I want you guys to talk about the difference between restoration and conservation.
Yes.
I'll actually be happy to answer to this question because there is actually a major difference that not many people do know. Conservators spend many years studying, as you can see, science and chemistry and history and materials. There is a lot of studying. And also conservators follow many stringent rules. For example, just to give you a couple, one, they have to use materials that are detectable under UV light, as you saw in the video. Or, for example, they cannot never ever paint over what an artist has done. So they will never overpaint any loss. And that's just to give you an example. Restorers, so while on the one hand, for conservators, what is important is the actual original intent of the artist. Is really the work of art, is what the artist has done, and they want to bring it back to life. A restorer is more really focused on to bringing the work back to being beautiful again. It's not so much the artist's intention, but it just make the painting beautiful again. So there are some rules that they may not necessarily do, and also they haven't done the many years of studying that a conservator has done. So a restorer, for example, really learns the job by practicing in a different studio, restoration studio. So it's actually a major difference, which is also important in regards to a conservator. When a conservator does, a restoration, most of the time brings the painting back to its original glory, and therefore also its value. So it's very important to know the difference and to really pick your art conservator right.
Yeah, there is definitely a difference. And I appreciate you explaining that to our viewers, because I think that that's really key for a lot of people who are potentially thinking about having their pieces conserved or restored, and what those two differences are.
Yeah.
I know that you guys have very special tools that you use. And one of those tools, which always scares me when I see it, is the syringe.
Yes.
So tell me, what is it that you're using a syringe for to help conserve these pieces?
We do Botox to paintings to rejuvenate them.
Is that right? That's hilarious.
What I'm doing in this case, as you can see, I applied a little piece of paper, Japanese paper we use as a protective layer, and we inject an adhesive between the paper and the paint layer. In this case, is to flatten the lamination of the color. So the adhesive, and then we use a little tool, which is a small little iron, and you probably saw it in the video. And this little iron with heat allowed us to flatten again the lamination, and the color will be reattached to the support. So the syringe is to inject the consolidant, the adhesive.
Do you do that often with the pieces that you're working on? It seems like something that you would do just about every piece that you work on.
It is something we do often, especially here in Florida, because delamination and losses and flaking of color is a consequence, especially of humidity. And we do have a very elevated humidity level here. So painting are affected by that. And they can also be having the canvas moved, and as a consequence, the paint layer and the color detached. So it's something we do almost regularly in paintings.
Well, thank you for that explanation. It's not so scary now. I appreciate that. One of the other things that you guys have, it was in the video, we didn't talk much about it, but you were pulling a large piece of what looked like plastic or saran wrap.
Oh, yeah. That's
suction cups. What is that machine?
This is a vacuum hot table, and we use this table. The top of the table we adjust the heat. And also we prepare, as you can see, an envelope customized depending on the dimension of the painting with a specific paper plastic, which has silicone in it, and to protect the paint layer from the action of the plastic. Then we connect the envelope with these valves to vacuum and suck the air. The painting will be then reflattened. We use this very often, especially for painting that has deformation of the canvas, creases, and very pronounced crack.
And if I may give an example, so as you have noticed from the video, which was clear, everything is so, just tested and so calculated to the T. And the same is for this hot vacuum table. So for example, Barbara was working on a Monet, which had a deformation of the canvas. And clearly a Monet has a very thick impasto. So she really had to calculate both the heat and the actual pressure of the vacuum, because you don't want to flatten a Monet. That's the last thing you want to do.
Yes,
we don't want to do that. Please don't do that. No. It's interesting. Yeah. How do you calculate that then? Can you tell us about how the scientific measurements that you have to do to create those calculations?
Yes, absolutely. We do test the artwork, and the test vary between between the treatment on the painting. Specifically in the case of Monet, I first placed the painting under traction, and then I tested the heat, and everything has to be calculated. So also the pressure, of course, was not a very heavy pressure because we don't want to create too much traction, and the paint layer hasn't passed. So it's a process of thought and consideration based on the examination we provided before.
It's really fascinating, and as we mentioned before in our talks, it really is. You are one of those whole brain thinkers where you are combining your art skills and also the scientific, and they just meld together. And this is where science meets art, and it's such a fascinating topic to discuss because there's so many small facets involved to make sure that you have success at the end. It's really incredible. Now, another one of your tools, as you were talking about, I think it's something you use outside. It's your Ghostbuster tool.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's an outdoor vacuum. Is it a portable vacuum? Is that what that is?
Yeah, this is a portable HAP vacuum, and we use specifically this vacuum for mold remediation, which is happened very often here in Florida. So in this case, I was removing mold from the surface of the painting, and this is very useful process.
Yeah, I suspect it is. Now, one of the things, and thank you for sharing these tools. I know there's many more, but one of the things that we really want to get to, and it's the really fun part of of conservation, is the before and the after. We have about 4 different before and afters that we'd like to share with our viewers tonight. Tell us about this first one.
Yes, so this restoration I performed several years ago. It was just probably at the beginning of my career in Italy. And as you can see, it's a very large painting. It's 7 wide and 12 high, the height. And it was in poor condition. One day, the director of the Superintendenza, which is the Ministry of the Fine Art and Heritage in Italy, she called me to go on site on this church, Chiesa del Gesù, which is the Jesus Church in Ferrara, and I went with her to examine this painting. And indeed, the priest welcomed us, and we went under the attic of the church to reach this painting. And he came to me with this painting folded like a blanket, and he was sharing with me that this painting was damaged, severely damaged, as you can see, by a bomb when the Second World War occurred in Italy. So the painting had major damages. You can see a very large tear and pieces of canvas all over and holes and delamination of color. It was a perfect example of the entire portfolio of losses and damages in conservation. So that was a very big challenge and a very great satisfaction to be able to bring this painting back to its original beauty. And you can see the painting now
is just incredible. And I think you were telling me a couple of days ago how when you first saw this piece, you didn't even know where to begin. It was so dark. And so you started at the brightest point in the middle.
Yes, the brightest point, which is the Virgin, was the only thing I could identify because it was so full of dust and grime, and I couldn't really understand what was depicting. So just with a very strong lamp and during the cleaning, we were able to understand what the painting was depicting.
Right, and I think that you actually even mended. You were sewing the pieces together because they were so ripped and torn. It's an incredible transformation to see that happen.
Yeah, it was.
Now I know we have another one that we can discuss, and it almost looks like the painting, I think, had and here's this is great.
Yes, this is a detail of a very, very large, was 20 inches by 15 tear, and this is the condition of the painting. You can see holes. This was the lower right side of the painting. This is during the restoration. Of course, I needed to reline the painting. That means I attached to the reverse of the original canvas a secondary canvas as a support, because it was so fragile and brittle and damaged that the original canvas wasn't able to support the pigment and the colors, everything. So needed to be relined. And then you can see the same detail after the restoration.
It's magical how you are able to do that. It really is.
This painting was 16th century. These other
I was going to ask, it's the last one was 16th century. Okay.
16th century. Procaccini was the artist, yes. Oh, this painting, poor baby, it has, as you can see, a very, very large tear and a pretty big hole. And you can see during the restoration, when I examined the painting with the UV light, it has creases, deformation of the canvas. The canvas was oxidized, so very in poor condition. And then we have the after the restoration.
Incredible. That's incredible. And now this one's a precious one. It was in your video. So tell us a little bit about this one. This is almost like treasure hunting. It's really
definitely
like treasure. Yeah.
Yeah, and as Sandra was saying, what we assumed that was a restorer who decided to cover the hat because probably he didn't like it or wasn't more used to. It was not fashion anymore, so decided to cover the hat. That's actually happened very, very often.
It's gorgeous. I mean, and the way you guys were able to remove the oxidized, I think it's the oxidized varnish on it. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's so bright, and the silk on her dress it's so shiny. It's incredible.
Yes.
It's a beautiful piece. And then the last one is out of this world phenomenal. We were talking about this yesterday, and it just blew my mind.
I have a story with this painting. When this nice couple, my clients, came to the laboratory, I was still in Italy at the time, with this painting. And so when I examined the painting at first, I noticed that the panel was definitely older than the paint layer, but before to express myself, I like to be sure and examine it even further. So when my client left the studio, I examined with microscope and other instrument we do use in conservation. And I noticed in the black background, a little fragment of color, which was red, definitely not the same pigment. It was grounded, the pigment was different. And this painting was definitely a 20th century painting. The fragment wasn't. So I called my client and I shared with them that I believed that something was beneath this crucifixion. So he especially was very, very curious to know more. They came to the laboratory and I showed them the little fragment, and they decided me to go further. So at that point, I shared with them, I can go further. I need to remove what we have now. Doesn't matter. I don't really like what is depicting, so we can lose this painting. So I decided to make a little cleaning test, and an eye popped. So I went a little bit further, and this popped. A little face appeared. So that was a confirmation something was beneath this painting, which was definitely older. So I proceeded with the cleaning, removing I call it new color, new painting, and a figure appeared. Continuing with the cleaning, of course, the client, I like to involve, my clients, so they were following all the phases in conservation and all the revealing in this case. At one point, the situation was pretty confusing, as you can see in the next slide.
Oh, yeah. What is going on? Where does it start and where does it end? Yeah.
Exactly. We have figures re-emerging, and then a quarter on the left side with a mask that didn't have anything to do with both paintings. So at the end of the restoration, this is what was beneath.
I mean, every time we talk about it, it gives me goosebumps. goosebumps. I'm like, it's so incredible. And as I mentioned in the prior slide of the prior painting, how it was, it's like archaeological digs, and it's a treasure hunt that you're uncovering and unmasking these paintings in their true form. It's just gorgeous.
It is.
You know what
So my clients brought into the laboratory a painting that was a 20th century, and they left with a painting that was dated 1521.
Incredible. That is so incredible to me. And that's what you're preserving. You're preserving this necessity, this historical aspect. It's not just, touching here and there and in terms of painting, but you are preserving the historical past, and it's really incredible work that you both are doing. One thing that I wanted to talk to you about, now these were amazing before and afters, but sometimes you have these mysteries, and you do also have an Instagram page. I am aware of that, so that all of our viewers should go and check out their Instagram page at Stella Art Conservation, and you guys have a lot of fun with your viewers. One of the things that I saw was a piece. You put this up one day, and you said, "What is it, everybody?" And you had so much engagement. People said it was a brownie, I think.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about this piece.
Yes. So, who guessed what is it? I'm curious to see if our viewer now are.
Yeah, let's see if our viewers can guess what this is.
Yes, exactly. But
it's fun because, when I saw it, I'll let our viewers try to see if they can figure out what it is. But, when I saw it, I thought, gosh, what in the world? I got close. I sort of tilted to the side, but it was really fascinating. I mean, I was thinking, okay, my children, my daughter said, it's a cookie. It's a cookie. It's a painting on top of the cookie.
I do not.
And I was like, okay, a 7-year-old would say that. Let's see. Did we have any guesses? Any guesses from our audience as to what this could be? Natasha, do we have anybody? Oh, Edward. Painting on stucco.
Oh yeah. Good guess. But
that is a wood panel. Good guess too.
Very, very similar.
Oh, a nest.
Ooh. Very close.
A fresco.
So that's. I'm going to reveal the mystery.
Okay.
So that was actually a very unique case. So this painting was severely affected by subterranean termite. So what they did, they created a nest. Good guess. An accumulation of soil on the reverse of the canvas. So this is actually soil and mud. And in the other picture, the previous picture, you can see the little fragment of color on top of this mud. And it was definitely very, very heavy. So that's caused traction, and the piece of a nest detached the canvas, bringing also the paint layer away. So this is what happened.
So how do you fix this? How do you restore something like this?
It's actually the restoration. I'm just working on it. And you can see in this case, I was releasing the mud, the nest from the paint layer and canvas. And the canvas is extremely fragile because the insect, they ate the cellulose. So the canvas is very, very brittle and fragile. So it would require a lot of patience and time to remove this piece of fragment of canvas. And now I'm already in the phase of reattaching all the pieces like a puzzle and recombine the painting together.
You have got to show us the end result, and we will post that on all of our social media for those who are watching tonight. Or, as I said, everybody watching tonight, if you want to see the end result, you could always check out the Stella's Art Conservation Instagram site and follow them, because you guys do have some really fun stuff to look at and see what you guys are up to. It's a lot of fun. So I want to take a moment and ask one quick question. Is I know you mentioned it, I think earlier in the video, but you've worked with quite a few masters. So who have you worked with? What masters have you restored?
Yes, I had the honor to be trusted in working with important artists. I did Rembrandt, many Italian masters, Guardi, Monet,
Salvador Dali.
Salvador Dali. I have so many. We have all the list in the website. Yes, definitely many important artists.
It must be such an honor.
Yeah.
You know, it's more of an honor, and it's an honor to have big masters, and it's kind of an emotional moment when they are delivered at the studio. But it's also an honor when we receive paintings of sentimental value.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I have a little story.
The great grandfather, portrait.
Yes, so true. And I have a little story in this regard, and I like to share this with you. One day, a couple came to the studio with a little piece. It was clearly a child painting, so it was very, very sweet to see. It was damaged during transportation. The couple moved, and this painting was damaged. So I was talking with them. I say, yes, absolutely. The painting will be restored. It can be restored successfully. You will not see the tear. It will go back to its original beauty. No problem. I'm very confident about it. And I felt emotion in them. So I was asking, is it a child who painted this? He'd say, yes. She replied, it's my son painting. And they share with me the story that when he painted this painting, 3 months later, he died. So you can understand, I still have chilling when I think about it, how valuable that piece was for them. And I can tell you, when I was restoring that little painting, I felt an emotion. So to me, that was valuable like a Rembrandt, no doubt. It was really important. So
absolutely. I think making sure that we take care of these pieces that have sentimental value to each of us. I can tell you, not everybody has a Monet in their house, right? But everybody has a piece that means something to them and that's sentimental and needs to be cared for. And you ladies are the people to do it. That is for sure. I want to actually take a moment. This is the fun part. There's lots of fun parts, but one of the lovely things about Artsplaining is it gives us a chance to chat with our community. And I know we have some questions. I love that the audience just went to work trying to figure out what that was earlier on. So I know we have some questions for our audience. If we can pop a couple of those up, Natasha, that would be great. Brittany Curtis, what is the strangest artwork you've ever created?
Yes, I had a few, but I would say the last one was the most strangest artwork I restored, which was a sculpture, a money mummy from Scott Campbell. And this sculpture was made by bills. Money,
dollar bills.
It was dollar bills.
How do you fix that?
Unbelievable, amazing sculpture. I was really thrilled to be able to really witness that a talent and genius. I would never think about a sculpture of money. And this sculpture was damaged during transportation. The top glass broke during transportation, so all the money was damaged by the pieces of fragment of glass. So we restored the artwork, and definitely now I know a lot about money because we needed to study them and retouch them with magnifying glasses. And
so we actually tried to count how many bills there were.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. How many?
Able to do it because it was really a big size. So you take an Egyptian mummy. So it was the same size. It was just massive and it was very, very deep. So impossible. And one thing that I'd like to share is we had an appraiser come in and evaluate the damage before we started the restoration. And obviously there was a big loss. Then the same appraiser came after the restoration, and there was actually no loss in value whatsoever because of the attention to detail that was paid, in every single bill and everything. So it was just a fantastic project to witness.
You guys are magic hands, talent. You guys are a talented duo. Let me tell you that the appraiser didn't see any damage and there was no loss. And that's incredible.
No, yep.
That's incredible.
Us, because of
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Dorota, she has a question. What was the grossest, most disgusting thing you had to restore? Question. Okay, who wants to answer this one?
Barbara, because and if she doesn't reply what I'm thinking, I'll chime in.
Okay.
Let me think. I have few, but I would say that something I experienced I never did. It just was a very unique case. But one time, because we do remediation and we do have machinery to remove smell, we received a painting. It was kept for 3 months close to a dead body. So.
Oh my gosh, what?
So we needed to remove the odor.
The stench.
Yes. And we did
it
successfully. That was great. I really was very happy to be able to help our client with that. So thank you for the
How do you remove that? How do you remove the smell from that?
Sorry?
How do you remove the smell without damaging the painting?
Yes, we do a hydroxyl machine, which is used also for fire event. We do receive painting damage by fire or mold infestation. So the smell of the mold is very difficult and the fire is very difficult to remove. So we do have a separated room where we keep, and we do all this remediation, and we use the hydroxyl machine for that. Yeah.
Sandra, was that the same story you had?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't think anything can beat that story. That's pretty.
No, you cannot.
That was very unique. Very unique.
That I would say so. And Dorota, thank you so much for your question. What a great question. Great answer too. A question from Jason. Do you have interns or pre-program volunteers that assist in order to get into a conservation program? Great question.
I used to have it in Italy. I don't have it here. I'm very, very busy. So now it's really difficult to be able to train someone. So not at the moment. It could probably in the future.
If I can add one thing, we are in touch with a middle school, an art middle school here in the Palm Beach County, because unfortunately it was postponed due to COVID. We wanted to go and see the kids in the middle school and tell them more about art conservation, because these are students who already are studying art. So we want to let them know this is a great opportunity that they should consider for their future career also.
Yes.
So we really are, engaged with the younger communities here, and we're hoping that this is going to happen after COVID, hopefully.
Yeah. I think what a great idea to involve the community and the kids into this. That's great. Thank you for your question, Jason.
Thank you, Jason, for your question.
Edward has a question. Can you restore porcelain too?
We do restore painting, sculpture, and object, but we don't restore porcelain. But we can recommend someone who can do it.
Yeah. Edward, you know who to call if you need a recommendation or referral. Thank you, Edward.
Thank you for your question.
Fiorella, what's the most sensitive process in art conservation? Well, it's a really important.
Yes, definitely a cleaning. Cleaning a painting is definitely the most sensitive and risky phase in conservation, because we use a solution that if they're not used properly, they can remove the paint layer very easily. So this is definitely the most sensitive process, the cleaning.
Yeah.
And in fact, we do receive, especially with more ancient paintings, we do receive quite a few that were damaged by previous restoration, particularly restorations that happened in the early century, because it was really the art conservator as we know it nowadays, but it was artists that were doing it. So we just received them and they're really bad shape. They have been completely skimmed, really.
Yes, they used aggressive solvent and they peeled away the color. Yeah. Thank you for your question, Fiorella.
Thank you, Fiorella. Paul, other than canvases, what painting substrates materials have you worked on?
Yes. So canvas and wood panel and metal and all the support possible. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Paul, for your question.
Thank you, Paul, for your question.
Well, I think those are the great questions this evening. I love it. We're really engaged. I love those questions from our audience and our viewers. And Sandra, Barbara, after COVID, we have got to get together and grab an espresso or possibly a cocktail. And I think we said even a grappa enjoy it together. But I definitely need to stop by your studio. I'd love to see it and to see you guys in action. It's really incredible what you guys are doing, trying to restore these pieces and try to conserve the history and the story. Really, there's these stories that are behind each piece that you guys work on, based on when they were produced. I want to thank you, Barbara, and I want to thank you, Sandra, as well, and everybody over at Stella Art Conservation. If you'd like to follow, please do. Their Instagram page is phenomenal. I love all the stuff that you guys have up there. And is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we thank them?
Do you have any idea, Sandra?
I do. I really want to express my gratitude for, taking their time after a long day of work, just to be able to watch us. So thank you very much for tonight.
Absolutely. I thank you sincerely for being here tonight. And I hope you enjoyed this tour in the world of conservation.
Yes, and I just want to take a moment and thank all of our viewers again on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And we hope that all of our viewers will join us next month with Artsplaining as we discuss and celebrate the end of Latinx Heritage Month, something that's very important to all of us. And again, I just want to thank you, Sandra, and also Barbara. You guys are amazing. And I want to thank our viewers. Thank you so much for joining the Coral Springs Museum of Art's Artsplaining. Have a lovely evening.